because I work very hard. Are you guys familiar with publish or perish? Or the idea that if you want to gain tenure, you have to publish. And so that's what I've been working on the last 6 years, is writing articles, writing books. I've had a book published. I've had 10 articles published on various topics. And this is actually my website, so later on, if you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website. You can just put in Mia Moody Ramirez or Mia Moody, and you'll be able to pull up my website. This is an example of an article that I wrote, and it focuses on social media and negativity and elections. I'm sure you guys, if you keep up with the elections, you've probably seen some of that negativity. And at one time, it was in newspapers, magazines, traditional media outlets, but now it has transferred to new media. So now you'll find it in Twitter, Facebook, YouTube videos, so it has actually transferred. So now, in my studies, I no longer just look at the traditional media outlets. I now look at citizen-produced websites, podcasts, emails, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, you name it, that's what I'm looking at right now. And that's actually made a difference in having my work published. Because when I first started out, I was looking at these traditional media outlets and I wasn't very successful. But at some point, I made the decision to switch to new media outlets. And that was when I had success. And I was able to have some of my work published. So now the gatekeeper has actually changed. In the old days, the gatekeeper was newspapers, editors, journalists, people who were actually trained to be gatekeepers. But nowadays, the gatekeepers are, guess who the gatekeepers are? You are, good, because you guys are writing blogs, you're posting on Facebook, you're posting on Twitter, you're the new gatekeepers. So that means that you have power. You know, if you have a following on Twitter or a following on Facebook, when you post a message, people will listen to you. And so you should take that seriously, because a lot of journalists have become famous for their blogs or for what they post on Twitter. So you no longer have to wait for that third party to publish your information. Now you can actually publish it yourself. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the journalism industry. Let's see if my clicker will work again. Is it working? Okay, so in the old days, we used typewriters, of course. We typeset our copy. But as you guys know, the journalism industry has changed forever. So the myth is there are no jobs in journalism. How many of you have heard that? Raise your hand if you've heard there are no jobs in journalism. Okay, good. And I know that's what you guys are hearing because I meet with a lot of students who are thinking about coming to Baylor University. And that's usually the first thing that their parents say. Why should I let my child major in journalism? There aren't any jobs in journalism. The newspapers are closing down. And I have to tell them that's not true. New media jobs are actually on the rise. And why do y'all think that's true? Why are new media jobs on the rise? Because of social media. Exactly. You have people who blog. You have people who write about new products, who write about company personalities, and they write it for that company's website. Or they write it for that company's Facebook page. So, you know, newspapers are still around, but in addition to newspapers, you can now write for online media outlets. So that's a myth, and that's what you can tell people. If you tell them that you're thinking about majoring in journalism, and they tell you, well, you shouldn't major in that because there aren't any jobs, you can tell them that's a myth. There are jobs. Another myth is journalism enrollment numbers are down. And I have to admit, as a journalism teacher, I was worried for a while. Once the newspaper started closing down, I started thinking, you know, am I going to have a job in a few years? Who's going to let their child major in journalism when there aren't any jobs? But that's a myth. Our numbers are not down. Our numbers have actually reflected that trend in increased jobs. We have an increase in students as well. So another myth, there is no money in journalism. Have y'all heard that before? Raise your hand if you've heard there's no money in journalism. Okay, a couple of you have heard that. And that's not necessarily true. It depends on where you're working. And sometimes you have to stick anything you decide to major in or any field that you'd like to enter. Sometimes it's true. You are going to start out not making very much money. However, if that's what you truly want to do, you're not going to really be worried about how But with journalism, that's not necessarily the case anyway, because if you go into PR, which is actually a part of journalism, those salaries are increasing. And they were the #1 in the communications industry from 1998 to 2008. So that's encouraging, isn't it? Okay. Another fact, journalism, PR, and new media are an important part of web content. Many of our students are actually hired to create a social media presence for companies. Some of them are making more money than we're making as professors. So our students are very well prepared. Another fact, journalism students are well prepared for the job force. In the past, we've had internships where people were not paid. That was just the norm. People would have interns, but they would not pay them. But nowadays, they want to pay our interns because they know the value. They know the value of creating or having a good social media presence for their company. So they're actually paying our students today to come and serve in an internship for their company. It's because they know the value of social media. And this one, you have several. You can just keep pressing. These are some examples of companies that have hired our students. We have students that are working for churches, for organizations, for Fortune 500 companies. Those are just all examples. And then these are examples of companies that hire our students for internships. And these are all local companies. Did y'all get a chance to look at that? It's Baylor, TSTC, just a whole bunch of different companies. These are some examples of student projects. Our students create websites for companies. They create a social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, just any social media outlet that you can think of. Instagram. So our students have to be well-rounded. They also create logos for companies. You can go to the next one, that's okay. And this is an example of some logos that a student created for one of our PR classes. It was actually for a church. So our students, as you can tell, they have to be well-rounded. They have to be able to take pictures, they have to be able to write, they have to be able to do layout and design. So, and also you have to be, if they stick a camera in your face and they tell you to talk, you need to be able to talk in front of a camera as well. And I think that's hardest for some people, especially for the students who are shy. I know you have some people who are naturals, but that's usually the area of resistance that we have for some students. They don't want to talk in front of a camera. Okay? And we also have a PR agency at Baylor. And the PR agency is just like a regular company. We have students run the company. That means they make the decisions, they meet with clients, and they actually produce the end product. And this is what they participate in: social media, layout, design, writing, all of those different areas. This is in sports photography is also very big at Baylor. You guys know that we've been doing well in sports for the last few years. So we've actually produced some great sports photographers in our department. Study abroad is something that we encourage our students to participate in, because if you go to another country, or even if you just go to New York, which is not a part of our study abroad program, if you just go somewhere else, you're going to broaden your horizons. It's important to interact with people of different cultures. So this is something that we encourage our students to participate in. Our student publications are very successful. We win numerous awards. She's shaking her head. Have you heard of the awards that we win? Every year we win national awards. That's good. We have a newspaper, we have a magazine, and we have a yearbook. And those students bring home awards every year. And the reason we push our student publications is because that's the best way for you to hone your skills. You know, it's not enough to just sit in class and to write papers for your teacher. You need to actually be out there working. Hands-on experience is the best experience. And you guys probably already know that. It's best to get out there, to have the experience of writing articles and having them published. And now I would just like to close with some words of wisdom. The first one is education. You guys can tell that I'm big on education. This one says, education is the most powerful weapon